going to do today is continue talking about manners with the Japanese sword, and dojo manners, and we're going to talk about the whole sphere of dojo manners as far as I can in the next 15 minutes anyway, as it relates to the handling of the sword and so forth, and how to make a bow and so forth. What is the point of that, etc. So I hope I'll clarify that for you. This is called Reigi in modern Nihongo. Reigi itself is a Confucian concept, and I won't go too deeply into into Confucianism and why it matters, but the term it implies is polite order. It's a very important concept in Japanese society. It's a pretty important concept, I think, across most societies, in fact, globally, really. Most of us have some sort of idea that there are things that you do and things that you don't do, and social consequences for doing them or not doing them. And we can call this Reigi. In Japan, Reigi has developed to be quite complex, and it implies more than just how to hold your cup, but also your relationships with people, etc. How you hold your cup, how you handle your sword, which place in the room that you might sit in when you're with others, and how you speak to other people in their social relationship to you in Japan has great consequences that demonstrate your position with people, and whether you understand your position with people, etc., and whether you offend them or whether you come across as knowing something about what you're doing, or a respectful person or something like that. So it's pretty important to have a concept of it. If you want to go, yeah, that doesn't really matter, I'm just here to watch videos about swords, and I don't really care about having manners with them or something like that. Well, number one, you're on the wrong channel. Number two, actually you're selling short the sword and what you're doing as a martial artist. I've known many people who trained in various martial arts over my life who had no concept of this stuff, and it doesn't make them better martial artists for not having a concept of this stuff. In fact, it makes them worse ones, and they will train and train and train and acquire belts and ranks and titles and so forth. And if you are a rude, selfish person, it is totally meaningless. It is totally meaningless. You have not achieved anything, in spite of the fact that you are able to, call yourself this or that, etc. And there's many walks in life which are like that. If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you just want to work a 9-to-5 job in a trade, or in a factory, whatever your thing is, you do it so much better by bringing humility to the work, bringing humility to your life. And that's what Reigi is supposed to be about. bringing that humility. And that's where it meets with Zen Buddhism a little bit, and that's where it meets swordsmanship, as the bringing of humility. Because this is huge destructive power, potentially, for yourself, for other people. If you use it as an ego tool, you destroy yourself. If you use it as an ego tool, you destroy other people. So it's best to have some sort of concept of limitation, of humility that goes along with this power. So I can't help you if you don't want to know anything about that. No one can. So let's look at the 4 sitting positions first. Seiza, which everybody I think knows on the planet. Everybody sat in this position at some point. This is, I think, these are all humanly common. Seiza, sitting on your knees, your feet are flat, your toes crossed over, your large toes, your big toes crossed over. This is Seiza. Seiza is a dead position. It's used a lot in karate, judo, and other Japanese arts, such as tea ceremony and so forth. Particularly it became important during the Tokugawa era. It is something of a dead position. It's difficult to move from, especially when you've been sitting for a while. It's interesting that in Iaido, that the Seiza has become the position to use. Because in the old days, no. It's especially associated with good posture and so forth, and looking clean and everything like that. We use it at the beginning of a training session in some of the Reigi, the formality of starting a training session, the bowing to the sword. We use it at the end of a training session, but in the Ruha to which I belong, we do not really use it at any other time at all. The next position to look at is Kiza, and again, this is just being on your toes. And many people know this position. Many people from wrestling and jiu-jitsu and so forth. The karate people know that position as well, Kiza. And Kiza is used often as a transitional position from sitting to standing, going up onto your toes and standing from Seiza. So to demonstrate that again. So if I was sitting Seiza and I want to stand up, I'd go up to Kiza first. This is beautiful. Then I come up and then I stand. And that is the beautiful conventional way to move from Seiza to standing and from standing down. And so there's Kiza is used as a transition. But in some martial arts, some Japanese schools, it's an important position, and it's actually what is used as a starting position for a kata, for example, from Kiza. And of course, if you're familiar with some wrestling codes and so forth in Western countries, you know that some wrestling codes, people start in Kiza and go at each other, etc. It's a little bit more flexible, etc. The next position is Anza. Anza is just with your legs in parallel with each other. In Western countries, in English, we often would refer to it as the tailor's position. Some people call it the Burmese position, the Burmese position, and use it for meditation, doing zazen, when someone can't cross their legs for some reason. This would be used. And prior to the Tokugawa era in Japan, this would actually be the main sitting position that everyone would use. And all the politeness and so forth would take place from this position. As I said, somewhere in the beginning of the Tokugawa period, that changed. This is not a history channel, so I can't tell you the details of when and everything like that, but at some point it changed, and Anza ceased to be the most polite way to receive people. Although it's, it would be normal to sit in Anza with people who are in an informal or semi-formal fashion, and even today it's very normal in Japan to use this position if you're visiting someone's home or something like that. I also practice Olobe Buko-ru tea ceremony, and we use this position because it is the Ruha was founded during the Sengoku Jidai, and as it's an older tea tradition, we use this position, Anza, rather than sitting in Seiza. If you're the guest, you sit in Anza. And I'll have a bit more to say about that in a minute. The last position to talk about is Yaigosh. And Yaigosh is used a great deal as well. Legs 45, let's say 90 degrees apart, knees 90 degrees to each other, feet close together, etc., so that you can move fast. Yeah. Yaigosh is basically for outside. When people wanted to sit outside, usually in armor. In armor, it's a little. You can sit in armor in Anza and Seiza and so forth, but particularly we would use Yaigosh for that instead. And it's associated with some styles of Kenjutsu, which some Muromachi era styles of Kenjutsu. The style of Kenjutsu which I teach in is a Muromachi period school, so we use Yaigosh a great deal. And that's another video another time. What else to say? I think that's about it. There is a variation also. This is also used in some schools as well. Tere Hiza, with one knee up and one knee down. And you will see this in some schools. The Musa Jikidun Ru, I think, used this position a great deal. But I'm not an expert on that school of swordsmanship. I don't come from that tradition, so I'm not 100% sure it's exactly that particular tradition that uses Kiza. What else to say? Well, anyway, hand positions and postures and so on. During the Muromachi period, people would place their hands like so. In the school of swordsmanship to which I belong, the hands are open like so. You can see what is in someone's hands, and you would sit like so. In younger schools, people would sit with their hands closed. And that's quite the norm in a lot of Budo schools, tea schools, etc. now, is to sit with the hands closed or the hands on the thighs, etc. When we make a formal gasho movement, what we call gasho is bow, a full bow. In my school, we would do like so. And that is gasho. And you're looking at the floor, not looking ahead. You're looking at the floor in gasho. The looking ahead thing, I think, might be more of a karate thing. I've not seen a lot of people in Koru Bujutsu do it. So I'm not sure that a lot of traditions would teach you to look ahead, etc. Maybe somebody with some experience in a particular Koru would have another opinion about that. But anyway, that's what I know. The next type of bow that we would use is a sort of half bow, and your hands are just touching the floor and you are looking ahead, etc. And the smallest type of bow is like so. And you would use that particularly when you're making some sort of affirmative in a conversation, when somebody wants to pass you while you're sitting, you would bow like that with your shoulders. This is a little bit more polite. And in most settings in Japan, that would be all that you need. The hand position, in some schools, teach the hand position like so, closed, with the hands touching on the floor, just in front of, just sort of off the knees at about 45 degrees, and the two knuckles touch the floor in many schools of tea and Budo and so forth. Some schools teach the hand being open and flat. Some even just use the fingers like so, etc. But the way I am taught is like so, like so, and that can be done from any of the positions. Anza, for example, like so. This would be very normal. Yeah, what else to say? Sometimes you get the question, is this kind of gasho used? This kind of gasho with the hands together under your chin is for the temple, basically. It's not, I think, dreadfully wrong to use it in everyday moving around in Japan. I've seen many Japanese people use it, or use it to me, etc. Although I'm a monk, but even so, because this is a very Buddhist thing to do, etc. So I think if you do that, everybody in Japan, this is a very universally universally recognised motion throughout the world. I was going to say Asia, but it's throughout the world. It's a universally, recognised gesture. So you're not wrong, but it is used at the temple, and when we bow with our hands together, it's usually at the temple. It's usually to the monk. It's not usually so much in a Buddha setting or tea setting or anything like that. That's all I can say about that. The other thing to talk about is positions of the sword. This is normal for me. This is normal for how I was taught to place the sword. This is in some dojos, they would not like that. They would prefer the sword to be on the other side, which is a very dead position on this side. However, in our dojo, we have always used like so. We can trust each other, so this is okay. The reason why some dojos do not like it is because it is very easy for you to draw the sword from this side. The other side is completely dead. Another way to place the sword that we see is the sword placed like so in a reverse position with the suka in reverse, and that's fine too. The most formal position for the sword is in front of you, like so, and then I can make my way towards the sword, etc. That would be used at the beginning of a training session and at the end of a training session. That's not so much used around people as such, etc. But that's also quite a dead but respectful position for the sword. The last position for the sword, which is also a dead position, this is the most dead position, is to place it behind you, like such, right behind you, and that would be used in company, when, in polite company. That would be the most polite way to place the sword out of reach. And it shows that this is a completely passive situation. As I said, I train in Olive Ru tea, and in the rare circumstance of a sword being brought into the room during a tea ceremony, that is the position where it would be placed during tea ceremony. So the chawan, the tea bowl, can be in front of you. The sweets and so forth that are consumed during tea ceremony are in front of you. The sword is behind you. In most tea schools, in the three major tea schools, the sword is not in the room with you. It is left outside the room with you. In older, the school to which I belong is a Sengoku Jidai era school, so that it is entirely possible for the sword to be brought into the room while having tea, because it is a samurai tradition of tea rather than a tradition of tea for common people. Yeah, so I think that covers really the basics of the politeness of positioning a Japanese sword and your postures and so forth. Basically, this stuff is very universal. I feel that you should pay attention to being able to sit on the floor, being able to move from one posture to another. I feel that there are a couple of things as a Budo person, if you wish to study Budo as the way of the sword, the way of whether it's jujitsu or sword or so forth, if you wish to study Budo, there are certain things that you should be able to do. Some of them include being able to move on the floor, sit on the floor, get up early in the morning. I think there are not too many people who are going to, you know, could you imagine 400 years ago saying to the daimyo lord, sorry, I'm just not coming to the battle until after 11 because I'm sleeping in. It's not going to happen. So you know, there are some things you should be able to do as a Budo person physically, and sitting on the floor, mastering this should be one of them, especially while you are young. If you do not have leg problems, real leg problems, like a real, you know, congenital problem, not a problem in your head that you don't like doing it, but it hurts because you're not used to it, that's a problem in your head. A real problem, like, you know, there's actually something wrong with your knee, and, you know, you can get an x-ray and it shows that there's something wrong with your knee, and that's a different thing. But for most people, I think that they can master sitting on the floor, should be able to. If you're going to talk about martial arts, if you're going to dare go around saying, I have this rank and title and what have you, I can do this or that, I can defeat this person and that person, I'd be okay in the ring with that person, what have you, but you can't sit on the floor. Huh? You know? Something wrong. Something wrong. Something not matching up there. So, thank you. Please like, share and subscribe. Please ask questions. And if you want to join our virtual dojo and take lessons in Aikijujutsu and Kenjutsu, Yaijutsu, and other related weapons that belong to our tradition, and help us build the channel, please go to the description below and follow the links and become a fully fledged channel member and trainee with me. Thank you very much.